Can you hear me? How about now? Oh, you can hear me. Are you muted?
Is it on? I can't hear a thing.
I can't hear you now. Okay, maybe we should dial in again.
No, I can't hear it. Hello? It is it? Oh, great.
Voice Acting Unplugged.
Hello there, it's Anthony here for Voice Acting Unplugged, the podcast that tries to get to the bottom of exactly what's happening in the voiceover industry. And I'm with my delectable co-host, Margaret Ashley.
Oh, that's a lovely introduction, Anthony. Thank you very much. Today we've got a great guest, Justin Sanders. And Justin is the group head of production at Global, one of the world's leading media and entertainment groups. And he has won so many awards with him and his team. Do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself, Justin?
Yeah, I've been in the industry now 25 years in post-production. In radio, started out cutting my teeth locally in local radio, and then moved up to the big smoke about 22 years ago now. And I've worked my way through as a producer to producer and engineer, into head of production, and now group. So I look after a team of 7.
Fantastic. We're on our best behaviour since we're on the client side today. And it also, I read somewhere that you once only escaped conviction whilst travelling through Spanish customs with a binaural head in a box, gaffer tape, cable ties and 32 condoms. That sounds like an interesting story. It sounds like you're a Foley fanatic. Is that the case?
Yeah, we did. I've done a few recordings abroad, and I've had some interesting looks in customs when carrying equipment, especially when we did some stuff that where we were away. We recorded with hydrophones underwater, and we had the condoms as backups for the mics in case the hydrophones went down. So you can imagine the look on Spanish customs.
Wow.
Well, you could have taken rubber gloves, fingers and things like that, but I suppose...
No, it wouldn't work as well. Wouldn't be as effective.
No.
Not nearly. Okay, so we're looking then, obviously, at the topic in particular of radio advertising today. Where did you first get your start in that area?
So as a tech op, actually started out as a tech op in radio, just covering a couple of weekends here and there, and then it's one of those ones a little bit like runners in TV, really. I suppose I started in Nottingham, and I followed a guy called Alistair around for a good few weeks, learning the trade, asking lots of questions. I think I absolutely probably drove him mad, the amount of questions I asked, but I think I just had such an interest in what he was doing in mixing audio, and I'd always dabbled at home and stuff, really, with tapes and bits and bobs and mini disc even then, and in terms of like from a DJing point of view, but never really considered how voice and sound and music could work together. So I found it really, really interesting, and just like I think I annoyed them so much they never forgot me because they offered me a job about a year later. So
fantastic,
it worked out well.
Okay, so we tend to try in this podcast to work out where things are going in the industry and how things are changing. What's changed in your time in terms of the voices that you seek for accents, for example? Are you finding you're looking for a lot more local people?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's constantly changing, isn't it? I think the industry goes through patterns almost. With voice and stuff particularly. And I think native is key. I know it's a word that's, like we said earlier, bandied around quite a lot. But I think native is really important at the moment. I think there's so much choice with voices now. I think, when you go back, 15, 20 years, there was a really limited amount of voices available and a limited amount of agents in London as well in that respect, and now there's a different agency cropping up every other week. So, you don't have to look at some of the books of some of the agents. They've got 120, 130 voices on their books, So we've got such an array of choice for casting. It's great. As a casting director, you've almost got too much choice, and depending on how long you've got on a project, if it's a really short turnaround, it can, I suppose it can be more of a hindrance sometimes with that amount of choice.
Now, that's an interesting thing, because you said you've got a quick turnaround. The voice actor tends to be always the one at the very end of the chain. So how much time do you get to get things ready?
If I give you an honest answer on this, Margaret, I could be in trouble. No, sometimes the turnarounds can be really, really quick. We were doing stuff in COVID, for instance, where there was messaging coming out of supermarkets, and it was forever changing. So we were needed to, within an hour, we were turning stuff around. We did stuff at the Olympics for the lottery, where we were waiting. We had literally an engineer on standby with a voice ready literally on the line. Every time there was an Olympic medal, British medal.
Wow.
So we would record once we knew the outcome of what the medal would be. And then we'd have that up and live within the hour.
Good grief.
So turnaround times vary depending on the project. Obviously, that's quite unique. We've done some stuff overnight where there was a TV show back a couple of years ago that was live on I think it was Thursday evening. And we would be sent all of the audio stems overnight, and we'd have an ad out first thing in the morning talking about what they'd seen the night before. So, it can vary. And then other projects, if you're really lucky, you might get a couple of weeks in terms of radio with a project. But that's, they're few and far between, those ones. Most of the stuff is dependent on what the kind of project is, whether that's messaging or not. It can turn around quite quickly.
Yeah, I actually remember my very first radio ad years ago up in Newcastle for Metro Radio. I did the advert at lunchtime, and it was on the radio at 4:00.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing. It is, and that's the great thing about radio, I think, is you can do that. You have the ability to do that. Whereas TV, you'd never get something turned around quite as quickly. So the advantages for an advertiser can be huge. Even with reactive stuff, we did stuff I remember around England in the football, and we had audio ready to go whether they won or lost. So the advertiser could select messaging based on the outcome of the result. So, and that was manually loaded now. I think with the systems now, you could probably do it automatically dynamically, but in those days it was manually loaded.
Now, how is the market generally at the moment, would you say? I
think its appetite for audio is forever growing. I think you can see that by the listening figures. I think advertising as a whole, as you very well know, probably the industry has taken, it's been tough, I think, over 12 months. But in general, I think, the appetite for audio is growing, and the audience figures reflect that. So it's something where we're on an upward trajectory. A lot of people dismissed us radio a long time ago, and I think it's forever getting bigger audiences, bigger numbers.
It's
and
one of the biggest shares commercial radio's ever had, the last Radio Hour, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is astonishing.
That's correct.
Really.
And podcast listening. Yeah, podcast listening's obviously, is through the roof these days, and digital listening particularly.
Yeah, it really sort of endorses the idea of consolidation, because there were a lot of naysayers. But if you're gaining a bigger audience now than you were before it happened, it's got to have been the right thing to do, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, and I think also, like everything, I think, look at the way that even with kids these days with, how they consume media, and I think because radio is a passive medium, you can be doing something else while listening to it. That's a great place to be, because, I only watch my children they'll be the TV and they'll be on their phone at the same time. So they're trying to take in two types of information quite quickly, and can't be focused on both. So they're hearing what's on the TV rather than viewing it.
Yeah.
So radio's got, a massive benefit with that. You can be, people have it on headphones at work or music, or, you're in the car, you're driving, there's so many places that you can consume it with while doing something else.
Yeah, today you see literally everybody in the street is either head down on their phone, or they've got their headphones on as they're walking along. You're walking your dog and they're listening to things.
Well, that's it. And you look at look at post-COVID, actually. If you look at the, even I obviously commuting to London, and I'm on the South Coast, so it's a bit of a schlep in. But when you walk down a carriage, you see the headphones. You look at all the amount of money people are spending on audio now, on high quality, high fidelity sound. The new Apple headphones, I think are they £550?
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Max is, and you walk down the carriage and you see thousands upon £1,000 worth of audio equipment, sat on somebody's head. And and they're consuming, obviously, some of them are watching stuff on their phone, but podcasts, radio, whatever it may be, Spotify.
Has that consolidation changed the way the adverts are made in any way? Changed the focus?
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, because we can serve stuff dynamically via digital now. So we can serve stuff that's based off the location of where somebody is, or or the time of day. So sometimes we think differently when that's an option on the table. We did a campaign for BA for their January sale, and that was around the time of year, the location of where the person was. So if they were driving and we knew they were on the M25, we knew that it's morning, so there's going to be a lot of traffic. And then all the way, or we could change also dynamically elements within that for the sale. So the sale pricing changes obviously as it goes.
Wow! So you could have maybe the same ad running, different regional versions of that ad running at the same time on the same station.
Yeah, different drop-ins. So if the price changed, that morning, they could switch the price out. If it was $379, they could drop it to $279, and that we'd record all of the possible connotations with the VO artist, and they'd be ready to go, and it would just drop it in depending on where they were and what time of day
that
it was.
Kind of flexibility,
and what the weather was like.
It makes you really much better able to compete with online and the other formats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it also makes it a bit more personal for the listener. It's something they can connect with because it's where they are. You have to be quite subtle with that. If it's raining, you don't say it's raining. You can say the weather's not great here, or why not go to the cinema. So people don't want to be taught to suck eggs as such.
Where do you see that going? Do you think there's a possibility that one day you might be able to talk to an individual?
I think so, possibly. With like everything, data's gold, isn't it? And I think the more data you've got, it's difficult. Sometimes you don't want to go too far with these things because it can obviously freak people out. If you were to shout out, Anthony, what are you doing on the M25 at 10 o'clock at night? It could worry you a little bit. So I think as it progresses, I think learning people's what they like and what floats people's boats, I suppose, is you could tailor bespoke material to that. So I think it's something that's been it's none of this is new. It's been around for a while now, but it's more and more advertisers are looking at that now as an option.
Fabulous.
Now, we were talking earlier about the way things have changed, how a lot of the time it used to be RP and now we're going for more regional accents. How do you see that changing in the future? Do you think it might go around again to RP, or will it be a mixture? Or do you think they're going to go for more street cred type people? What do you think the advertisers are looking for?
I think it goes with the market. And obviously, I think they're trying to appeal to a slightly younger demographic at times. So, and I think a lot of advertising now is, you talk about voices and you talk about voice actors. And I think even in advertising, we're probably getting more into a voice acting position, if I'm honest, because I think it's more of a performance than a straight narrative. And I think when you look at AI, and we'll probably get onto this in a bit, no doubt, but you have to look at AI, and it can do basic stuff, right? So text to speech, particularly, is speech to speech is very different. But text to speech, it can do basic messaging at the moment, which is passable. Don't get me wrong, and it's the worst it'll ever be. But when you look at then an ad where you want emotional connection, if you're doing something for the fire service or for an air ambulance, and you want somebody, you're telling somebody's story, it can't deliver the emotion, and even things like I know it artificially inserts breaths now and things like that, but sometimes they'll be in a recording a breath that you hear when they've done it, and it's either that it may be because they're seeing the line coming up and they take a breath, and you can hear the emotion in the breath, and you'd often leave it in because just that space and that time, for the listener to consider what's going on and allow that extra space and the breath in, you can't replicate that.
That's good to hear, because generally as voice actors, we will take out the breaths because as a commercial, you want it to be really quick and to fit into a time. So you edit that all out. But it's good because, yes, I do a lot of games and you need to have all of those emotes in to get the emotion coming from the character. Do you prefer generally for people to leave breaths in for you to edit out, or? I tend to always, if we're recording remotely and people are recording their end, sending files, I would always opt for the full session. Yeah. So everything in, because we've got tools that we can clean audio up. I know some people do their own cleaning and stuff if people's acoustics aren't quite up to standard.
with a little bit of room reverb or a little bit of boxiness, but we've got, all these tools available. So I'd much rather have all the raw material and then work, and work my own way. But and most of my guys are the same.
You mentioned the boxy sound and that you can get background noise. I think at COVID, a lot of traditional actors got themselves booths made out of bits of plywood and sponge. Is that something you have to deal with more now? And is it something you're happy with, or is it still a problem?
I think I think some agents have done a really good job with it, and I think some agents were really quick during COVID to react to get their artists work in terms of help getting set up at home. Because, the industry kept moving. There was things going on. TV was difficult, but radio, it was our trusted medium as such. So we had to get messaging out, and it was the quickest way to do it. So there was work going on, behind the scenes. There was lots of things happening. So a lot of artists invested in kit early on, which was good, and some of the agents were brilliant at actually testing the kit and adding samples. And it's continued. Most of the people now have invested properly, so it's a lot less duvet dens than there used to be. So people that I think that are in it for the long term and not the short term have invested in the equipment. And yes, there's some people that are still, the sound's not great, or because you can't get them in. But technology's moved on now with AI in terms of with plugins and equipment, so that it is. There's a certain level you can do of cleaning now at quite a low threshold in terms of cost.
That was an interesting thing there. You just said you can't get them in. So do you like to have voice artists come into your studios? Yeah,
my preference, if I'm honest, is because I think there's a lot of communication done face to face. Yeah. And I know that we can do stuff on video now, so that but often if we've got an agency or clients in the room, which we do have for a lot of sessions, it's quite good to have that. You almost become a bit of a translator between the client and the agency and the voice artist, because they'll say something, the direction probably doesn't quite make sense sometimes. And the engineer has got an idea normally of how to reword it, or they can see by the voiceover artist's eyes whether it's gone in. It's like, what on earth? What the hell is is light and shade? Yeah,
Yeah.
So do you have studios all over the UK?
So I look after London and Manchester's our remit. So we do the national advertising. So we've got 3 suites in London and 1 in Manchester. So we've and actually Manchester as well now has become a lot more in-person voices, because there's a lot more obviously artists and stuff in I think especially with the BBC and stuff in Manchester, and a lot of TV companies obviously have moved to Manchester as well. So it's a lot more talent that probably would have always had to travel to London now, and there's a lot more studios going up in Manchester as well, which is
there's the Hose Keys development.
Yeah, which is great, really. And so we try to get people in where possible. But we still do a lot of stuff remote. It's not it's not all.
But that's quite good, because you get to know the person in person, as opposed to just over the and you can build a relationship more in person than just remotely.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, Margaret, when you talked about the games as well, do you do a lot of games from home, or do you tend to go into studios for?
I do more or less 50-50.
Yeah.
I think the higher, the AAA games tend to be in the studio, don't they?
Yeah.
Because they want you to have every advantage and nuance of what you're portraying possible, whereas some of the lower budget games, not necessarily quite so much. Would that be the case?
Although I've done remote with America.
Right.
For a AAA game.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of artists as well, post-COVID, have wanted to come back in. I think sometimes, it can be quite lonesome if you're in if you're in your box all the time and not able to get out occasionally. So, we have the occasional artists as well that's got great home setups, but they say, oh, actually, I'm not far off town, or I could be in town in so and so. Can I come in? So we'll welcome with open arms.
I knew I shouldn't have moved to Cornwall.
I'm in London tomorrow doing a radio ad.
Yeah,
actually, it's going to be a TV ad. Oh.
Fabulous.
But I'm going into a studio in London to meet people, which is
Yes.
really nice.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to have a mix, I think, isn't it? Like everything, there's certain jobs, and like I talked about with turnaround time, sometimes, even with turnarounds now, you may need to turn it around before you could get somebody to travel in. So, we got that flexibility, I suppose. That's one thing that, and we've had it for a long time, obviously with voices with decent home setups. But now I think having that mix really works for us.
Okay, so how do you, how should a voice future-proof their career against AI, do you think? Does everybody need to just get acting chops? Is that the standard?
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's like everything. I think having a voice that I've listened to a lot of the AI material in terms of voices, and they're, even the UK stuff at the moment, I think is quite limited in terms of, with accents and stuff. And I think it's about performance, like everything, isn't it? And I think it's about working with the engineer as well. The other side, we both, we all contribute towards a project. And I think with artists particularly, it's never just directed. We'll always take an artist's advice on something. Have you got a better one in you, or is there, even I think playing back to an artist the takes. I often do that, with young artists that are coming in for the first time, or we're working on new projects, is I think hearing themselves back sometimes when you're trying to direct them away from a certain style and they're struggling to change it. I think just playing something back to somebody that, they instantly get a feel then for, what's wrong. Is it, it's a lack of smile. It's a lack of smile I've got in there, I sound miserable. So it's,
or there's too much smile.
Yeah, often. Yeah, exactly. Too much. Yeah, that's the other thing. And with a lot of stuff now, where it's, you don't want to feel like you're being sold to, you're being talked to. So I think I don't think anyone needs to start acting careers to become a voiceover now. But I think it's like everything. It's a skill, and people, once people work on it, and the more and more they do it, the stronger they become.
Do you think presenter voice will have?
I think there'll be gaps that AI will fill in. And I think the basic stuff, I think is an easy fill for it. I think, when you look at TikTok and look at how AI has been utilised on that, and the kids also, that generation are so used to hearing it now, it doesn't grate on them. Hear a lot of stuff on TikTok and it's AI generated. So I think there'll be I think the basic messaging. I don't know. We work obviously in radio mainly, and but I'd imagine a lot of the corporate explainer videos probably have changed now in terms of a lot less work. Maybe, I don't know, but I would imagine that it's not quite as lucrative as it once was. Yeah. With the likes of AI, because it serves a purpose, but it's basic messaging.
Although I think a lot of producers are realizing that listeners don't like to be talked to by AI. They object to, especially if they've been fooled by it initially. Yeah. It kind of feels, it is impersonal. Do you think that's right? Yeah.
Well, I think it will be interesting. I think over the next few years, as we see it, obviously, as we see it grow, it will do. And I think it will be down to how audiences react to it. And if no one objects, it will adapt and improve. But if no one's going to complain, that doesn't sound real, or I'm being sold to by something artificial than an actual person, I think we'll have to see how that goes. And if the appetite, isn't there for people with AI in terms of consumers, then I think it will die in that respect, because it comes down to, like everything, it's like a presenter, isn't it? That no longer pulls an audience. They have to move on and you bring someone else in, but they don't relate to the audience, or the audience doesn't buy into them.
Sure.
So how do you decide where to go with the adverts so that your clients are pleased with what you give them? Do they give you a brief of what they want, and then you have to write around what they want? Or
so we often get briefs. So we do a lot of client direct work, and we do a lot of stuff internal work. But we've got a team also of 8 writers for nationally, for global, that look after copywriting. So the brief will come to those guys normally, and a couple of project managers. and then it will be those guys to craft something. They're a really, 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 really clever team. Lots of experience in there, amazing writers, really, really good writers. And they come up with some beautiful stuff. And then obviously, like everything, client often gets hold of it and then destroys it. No, not always, but and then that's where it sort of starts. And then it's to and fro and often with legals and stuff, and compliance teams, depending on what the product often is as well. So there's lots of other things to get in. And then the way we work often, it'll be down to the producers to cast. So they'll do the casting. The great thing I think with radio as well is because as a skill set in terms of post production and recording is as an audio producer is that you do so many elements of it. You'll be casting it often. You'll be doing pre-prod on it. You'll be directing the session. You'll be doing the post mix. And then often looking after clients as well. When I first started in it, I used to think, how the hell do you do it all? You got trying to time things on a stopwatch and while balancing 8 clients that are speaking in the background while trying to listen to a take. And then mix the whole thing as well. But I think that's the beauty of it. I think we get to control. We get given something kind of often consulted earlier, but in 2-dimensional form on a piece of paper, and then you get to create something. You get to craft something that people can experience.
Do you have your own in-house music teams as well, or do you tend to do?
No, not music teams. Tend to use production music libraries. So we've got access to a wide variety of tracks, and that again, like the voiceover agency side, has grown hugely now. So there's so many different libraries. There's so much choice. It's great. I think again maybe it can be too much. It can be quite overwhelming when you go on a site, and when we bring guys in, and they start out, and it's like you're trying to teach them how to search for music, and it's like, oh, where do I start? Because there's 100,000 pieces of music on this one site,
Under the word secret agent. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Search criteria on sites, I think is often can be a bit hit and miss. I think, like everything you get, when I search for music, I get a feeling as soon as you put the two together, you'll have often have a voice clip down, or even before recording, a voice clip of somebody that you're going to use, and you can almost play that against it and go, okay, yeah, right, that works, or if you haven't had a chance to source music before the session, often just balancing the takes and I'm a big fan of also working with the full piece of music, so all the stems, so often breaking that down. So I'd never go for a 30-second cut, or most of my guys are the same.
Yeah. Do you ever get asked by clients for demos from voices?
Often, yeah. That's not as in to create a bespoke demo for it, no, but
just reels.
Yeah, just in general terms, it would be a reel, yeah. Or often, depending on the client, obviously sometimes clients will pay, to demo an ad, to hear it up before, going to record or to test a couple of people.
Now, when I first started, a long time ago, there were 2 types of ads. There was the I'm shouting at you and you're going to buy this car. And then there was the general, ordinary conversational time. And that was mainly for regional areas. Do you still find there's the regional difference in commercials?
No, I don't think as much now. I think some of the stuff you hear, I think, like everything, I think in the industry as a whole, I think the quality could do with, in advertising and audio, could do with a lift. I think there's a lot of people, that do things on quite a low budget with, sometimes that stand out for the wrong reasons. But I think some of the actual, if I'm honest, the output of the stuff that the guys in within the company make regionally as well, I think it's very, very high standard. And listen to some of the material, and it's it's impressive, and it picks up awards. I think last year at the Radio Centre award was picked up by a local client, or there was a couple in the top 5, I think. So it's and I think that's down to lots of things. I think there's lots of, like we talked earlier about choice of voices and talent available. And it doesn't always you don't need a massive budget to make a great sounding piece of audio. It's a myth. It's down to it's down to a great engineer, great voice,
Great writer.
Yeah. Jonathan will tell me off for getting the writers. Yeah.
Speaking of awards, you've got, I have to say, the most ridiculously long list of awards I think I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah. It's. I've been very fortunate. I worked with some really amazing people over the years, and we've got awards for all sorts of things, which has been great. So I've been very privileged to work with some fantastic artists, some fantastic voices, and we've got a bit of luck on the way. But we've created some great material, and we've pioneered stuff. I think we were one of the first award winners in sound design for binaural at Cannes.
Wow.
We did a Mills and Boon book, 15-minute extract before audiobooks were really a thing, a big thing certainly, and we did the first 3D version of it, binaural. Just
as a matter of interest, do you guys care that voices have got awards? Do you look and think, oh, he's got an award, I want to hear his demo?
It's not something I'm conscious of, if I'm honest. It amazes me sometimes you have pictures of people on voice sites because you're listening because based on a voice. But so no, I mean I'll listen through and I'll with casting, like everything it's almost it's a gut feeling. Yeah. You'll hear it. You'll hear a little nuance in the voice, and you'll go, that we can get that. We can get that out of Margaret. She's got it. That's.
Of course, I can anything. But actually, you say that you tend to go to agents. Is it just agents you go to look for voices, or will you look on pay-to-play sites or wherever you might find a voice?
Don't tend to use pay-to-play. No, but we'll obviously we've got voice lists, and voiceovers.co.uk obviously with over the years we'd utilised and. So no, we keep it varied. There's a lot of guys. Even that when I was at Vox more recently that we've worked with regularly. Jack, who I met a few years ago.
Jack, what do you man? I think you're talking about, are you?
Yeah, there's a man with a few awards as well.
That's right. He's nicked a couple of mine over the years.
Yeah. So it's like everything.
We Geordies will like to stick together,
It's like everything. You build relationships, don't you? And I know Jack and one of my engineers have become, they work together quite a lot. So there's a friendship there that
who's your engineer? I must get in contact.
Names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Quite.
I will find out.
Well, Justin, it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. Our half hour is now up. I would just like to say thank you very much for taking part in our fledgling podcast and giving us some wonderful insights into the world of radio advertising. And again, just thank you very much for your time.
Well, thanks very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a lovely half hour or 34 minutes. It'll be cut down, I'm sure. And now you know both of us in person, and I'm sure we'll meet
Stop advertising.
Real life
Leave it. Leave it alone.
That would be nice.
And for everybody else that's listening out there, I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please do hit our subscribe button, leave us a review, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you've got any questions or anybody that you would like us to interview, please get in touch and let us know.
Bye.
Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.